It's disappointing, that we didn't execute. I mean, it comes down to execution. We did not execute the way we obviously needed to win this game. And so we have to look at ourselves as individuals. I just told the team that we all have to look at ourselves, starting with the head coach on down, and say, okay, what do I have to do? What do we have to do to fix the issues that we're having? And not just focus on the end result. We have to look at the lack of executions in all phases of our team and where we can improve that. So, again, it's disappointing. We got to take a hard look at ourselves and, get back to work and find ways to improve as a football team. With that, I'll open it up.
We'll start in the back row here in the middle with Tim.
You talk about the lack of execution, Coach. I mean, as you look at it, I'm sure obviously you're going to study it here. I mean, what kind of things can you point to? Did you suspect that you were not prepared to execute on a high level today?
No, I thought it was a good week of preparation. And that's something we have to go back and evaluate and say, okay, we felt it was a good week of preparation, but it didn't, roll over to the game. And so let's go look at our preparation and look and say, okay, where can we enhance the way we prepare to make sure that we're finding a better way to execute. I wish there was a part, like one thing, if we did this, bam, it would happen in the game. But it's really an evaluation of everything we're doing, right? Schematically, personnel-wise, everything, to look and say, okay, how can we improve the next time we're on the field?
As you assess this, I mean, you're an inexperienced head coach. What role do you think that has played in this?
I don't know if it's my experience as head coach, and I don't know if that's a reason why or a lack of execution. But it starts with me, right? It starts with me as the head coach and looking at myself and saying, what do I have to do to help this football team and really look at everything we're doing, because the performance isn't where we need it to be.
Coach, we'll go to the front row to your right.
Hey, Marcus, you've talked repeatedly since you got the job about this being a team and a program led up front on both sides of the ball. And, 2 weeks in a row in the fourth quarter, that hasn't transpired. How close do you feel like you guys are to being that team, and what can you do to help them become that team?
We're not close enough, and if you can't stop the run or, get after the quarterback when it's crunch time, if you can't run the ball and protect the quarterback when it's crunch time, we're not where we need to be, but if we want to be the program we all aspire to be, we're going to have to be an O-line and a D-line driven program. That's not going to change, but we're not where we need to be. We know that.
Many of your key leaders on this team are players on both of those units, whether it's Foskey or the Adamalolos, Jared, obviously Lug. So how much confidence do you take when there are bumpy waters like this that you have the right guys in place to help get it turned around?
Yeah, I challenge the leaders. I challenge them because right now is going to be a difficult time because there's two situations going to happen, right? There's going to be people that say you aren't good enough, you guys aren't a good enough team, and there's going to be people that say it's okay, you did your job. And neither of those things can creep into our program, right? We have to stay together, look internally, and say, okay, what do we have to do as individuals? It's not that I did my job. It's not that, hey, I'm not good enough. It's no, what do we have to do as an individual to improve and to make sure we're in a position to execute on Saturdays?
We'll stay in the front to the left with Patrick.
Marcus, late in the fourth quarter with Drew coming in for Tyler, was that an injury-related thing or just wanted something new?
Yeah, it was injury-related. Tyler hurt his shoulder when he got tackled.
And then in the fourth quarter on another 90-yard touchdown drive, what did you notice there that might have been similar to last week or something kind of new entirely?
The biggest thing was a lack of tackling. It's too many times where, run or pass, we didn't get the ball carried down. You can't let an offense drive 95 yards at any moment, but especially not in the fourth quarter when the game's on the line and you're up and you're trying to, put the game away. And, our special teams unit put the ball in a great field position and in the 5-yard line, and we have to, when it matters the most, as I've always said, when it matters the most, we have to execute, and that's at the end of the game in the fourth quarter when the game's on the line. We got to find a way to get a stop, and we got to tackle, and we got to execute better.
Far right, second row with Tom.
Marcus, what can you do to help these guys?
I gotta be a leader. I gotta be a leader, and I can't sit here and point the fingers at any one person. You start with pointing the finger at yourself and saying, hey, I'm going to evaluate myself first as the leader of this program and say, okay, where can we improve? And then we got to challenge everything we're doing. We can't just say, okay, hey guys, just keep doing it the same way and things are just magically going to improve. No, we got to be very strategic and honest with ourselves and honest with each other, which isn't uncomfortable all the time. But we have to be honest and really take a unbiased look and say, okay, are we doing what's best for this team? Do we have the right people on the field? Are we schematically doing the things that it takes to have success? Because for 2 entire games, it hasn't shown. It's shown at points. We've done a really good job at points in the game, but the entirety of 2 games, it's not where we need to be. And so as a leader, I got to be the first one to look at myself, and then we got to really look at what we're doing and challenge it.
When you feel like you've challenged them in the 2 weeks heading into the Ohio State and then today, and then it doesn't work, where do you go from there? Do you tear it down and start over, what can you do?
No, you continue to reassess. Right, you look at personnel, you look at scheme, you look at where are the mistakes happening. That's the biggest thing. Okay, where's the lack of execution and mistakes occurring, and why? And then we got to figure out, okay, what do we need to do to make sure those things stop happening? Because that's what it is, right? It's the lack of execution. Yes, when it matters the most, but throughout the entire game, there's moments where there's a lack of execution for whatever reason it is, and we got to look at those moments and say, okay, what do we have to do to fix it? Personnel? Is it understanding what we're doing schematically? Is it the preparation? Whatever it is, we have to figure out and we have to address it.
Go far left, second row with Tyler.
Marcus, is there a concern that Tyler Buckner's being asked to do too much with leading the offense in carries and then also trying to throw the ball over the field?
We'll assess that. I can't tell you right now. I felt really good with the game plan going in, and we didn't produce the results that we wanted to. And so we got to look and see. We got to say, is there too much on his plate? Are we asking him to do too much? And that's going to be a part of what we do.
And then how much has the inconsistency of the offensive line affected the ability with play calling?
I think it's at all 3 levels, and I'm not going to sit here and say it's the offensive lineman's fault. It's, from offensive line to quarterback to running back to wideouts to tight ends, there's multiple different levels of lack of execution. But again, we are an O-line driven program. I've said that, and it starts up front, and we know at every position we got to improve, but at O-line too.
We'll go front row to your right with Pete.
Marcus, in terms of what you saw in August versus what you've seen the last 2 weeks, I'm sure there were some things that maybe you're like, okay, we have to grow in this area. I know this when the season started. What are those areas? But are there also things you've seen the last 2 weeks that have surprised you, that you felt like were going to be strengths based on what you saw in camp?
I want to be able to run the ball better, and so we have to look at, we had 130 yards rushing today, but I still didn't feel like we could run it at will, and so how do we get it to the point where we feel like we can stay consistent and stay in rhythm by the ability to run the ball? And we gotta hit open wide receivers in the pass game. It's not always a quarterback's fault, right? It could be a route, it could be timing, it could be any of the many things that happen which cause incompletions, but those are things that we have to improve at. Defensively, we got to, as I said earlier, we have to be able to stop offenses when it matters the most. Our defense did a good job, but when it mattered the most, we didn't get the stop that we needed, and we needed that as a team. We needed that stop when the ball's on the 5-yard line and we're up. We needed the stop last week when we're down 4 points and the ball's on the 5-yard line. So when it matters the most, we got to be able to step up defensively and make those stops that we need to do.
And do you know the severity of Tyler Buckner's shoulder injury?
No, they just said he's out for right. I mean, he was out for that series or the
but
next
not
series.
Out moving forward.
No, I don't know.
Okay.
I have not had any discussions about that.
We're going to go back row here right in front of me.
You said you have to look individually. What did you see from special teams individually that you're actually happy with?
I thought they stepped up. We challenged the kickoff return unit, and they did a good job of executing. At the end of the game, we had a punt block. We challenged Brandon Joseph to, hey, if you got a chance to return a punt, let's return it. And he did one time today, and he got some positive yards. And so the special teams unit stepped up today majorly, and I'm really pleased with that phase of the ball.
We'll go to Angelo to your right in the second row.
Coach, Jared Patterson at the end of the game was about as visibly as upset as you'll see a player.
Who's that?
Jarrett Patterson.
Oh, Jarrett Patterson, yeah.
Did you catch wind of that at all? And what do you make of, just the visceral anger that he showed there at the end?
An ultimate competitor, and when you're a competitive person, man, your emotions when you lose can take control of you. And I didn't see it, but I'm sure that's the case. And so as I said to the guys in the locker room, that's when we need our leadership the most, right? When things are at the toughest moments, right? No matter if it's starting off 0-2, no matter where we go from here, when it matters the most in those toughest and hardest moments, that's when your leadership has to come out. And so this won't be the last time Jared Patterson's in a situation where he's disappointed. And he has to continue to understand that, man, that's where you have to be a leader, and you have to make sure that everybody's watching you. Same with me. Everybody watches how you act when things are tough. When things are good, it's easy, man. Everybody's happy. It's easy to be a leader when everything's going well. When things are going not so well, that's to me when the character of leadership will show.
And you mentioned guys potentially getting other opportunities, or depending on what you guys evaluate with who should get the ball. Chris Tyree didn't have many touches in this game, only had 5 at the end and only 1 by halftime, and it was in the last 5 seconds. Just your thoughts on being able to maybe use a weapon like that more moving forward.
Yeah, we'll go and evaluate, those 5 reps that he got the ball and see how he graded and what he did. But Chris Tyree's a guy that I have no hesitation in making sure he gets the ball in his hands. And so if we have to find ways to do that and be creative and getting the ball in his hands more often, then we got to do it.
And that,
okay, we are done. Thank you, Coach.
Good?
Thank you. Yep.
All right, guys.
All right. So Marcus Freeman also shedding some light there on Tyler Buchner, said his shoulder was injured. So they'll take a look at that. But Notre Dame starts 0-2 for the first time since 2011. And do with what you will here. These are the numbers, okay? We're presenting you with the information. Do with what you will in terms of how you want to interpret it. Because you go back to last season, they lost in the Fiesta Bowl. If you add that loss to Marcus Freeman's record, he's the first Notre Dame head coach to ever start 0-3. I don't think anybody expected him to start 0-3, but he has started 0-3 with a loss to Ohio State and then a shocking loss to the Marshall Thundering Herd. Have a day, Herd.
Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.